demonstrated, very strong, very good leader. He's a nice man, but he can be nasty. He can be very nasty, maybe as nasty as anybody. The world. I'm aligned with the world, and I want to get this thing over with. You see the hatred he's got for Putin. America, the United States of America was a dead country.
The room was silent, not peaceful, not calm. It was the kind of silence that bends under pressure. Dozens of journalists waited, cameras ready. The hum of lenses focusing filled the air, mixed with the faint tapping of pens. The G7 Summit, Charlevoix, Quebec, June 2018. At the long wooden table sat the leaders of the world's largest economies. Flags framed the walls like reminders of pride and tension. Donald Trump sat at the head, arms folded, face set in the defiant glare he reserved for moments when he wanted to dominate the room. Across from him, sitting perfectly still, was Mark Carney, the Canadian-born governor of the Bank of England, and before that, the Bank of Canada. He had not said a word for 47 minutes. Trump had spoken plenty, loudly, confidently, unfiltered. His aides scribbled notes, while the other leaders exchanged looks of caution. The agenda had been trade, tariffs, steel, dairy, fairness, but Trump had turned it into something else, a test of loyalty. You know what? He said, slapping his palm flat against the table. Canada has been taking advantage of us for years. We protect them, we defend them, and what do we get? Tariffs, barriers, dairy quotas, total ripoff. A few heads lifted, some sighed quietly. Macron leaned back in his chair, folding his arms. Merkel pressed her lips together, glancing toward Trudeau. Carney did not move. His gaze was fixed, steady, calm, unreadable. Trump smirked. I like Canada, great people, but let us be honest here. You guys get a free ride. His tone shifted from humor to challenge. You think you can lecture us on economics? We are the United States. We hold all the cards. The words hung in the air. Cameras clicked once, twice, then went still again. Carney slowly straightened his posture, folding his hands on the table. His face was calm, but his eyes had that sharp stillness of a man who knew exactly when to speak and when to let silence do the work. He finally said softly, "Cards only matter when you understand the game." The room froze. Trump's grin faded. The scribbling stopped. Merkel lifted her gaze. Macron's eyebrows rose slightly. Trump leaned forward. What is that supposed to mean? Carney's voice remained measured, deliberate. You talk about trade deficits, Mr. President, but balance is not just numbers on a page. It is trust, the kind that holds currencies together, the kind that keeps markets from breaking when leaders decide to improvise. Trump's hand twitched against the table. I do not need lectures from bankers, he shot back. Carney smiled faintly. Then perhaps you need one from markets. It was a small line, delivered quietly, but it felt like thunder, because everyone in the room understood exactly what he meant. A week earlier, Trump's midnight tariff tweet had wiped billions from global markets. Investors panicked, currency values wobbled, confidence cracked. And now, in this room, Mark Carney, the calm, unflappable economist, had said what no one else dared to say. Macron turned to Merkel and whispered, "Il est dangereux quand il est calme." He is dangerous when he is calm. Merkel nodded, her expression thoughtful. Trump leaned back, crossing his arms again, his tone sharp. You think markets scare me? I move markets. You have seen what happens when I speak. Carney met his eyes. Yes, he said quietly, we all have. The silence that followed was louder than applause. Even the translators stopped. The air was thick enough to touch. For a moment, Trump looked like he wanted to fire back. But Carney's stillness, that almost surgical composure, made it impossible. Trump was a man who thrived on reaction. Noise was his weapon, but Carney was the rare opponent who gave him none. He had built his career on understanding volatility and mastering it, born in the cold expanse of Canada's Northwest Territories. Educated at Harvard, trained at Oxford, he had navigated the 2008 financial collapse, stabilized Britain through Brexit panic, and stared down hedge funds betting against entire nations. He did not raise his voice because he never had to. Trump broke the silence again. All right, Mr. Banker, tell me this. What happens if America walks away from the table? Carney looked at him, unblinking. Then he lifted a glass of water, took a slow sip, and said, markets do not respond to exits. They respond to uncertainty. You can walk away, Mr. President, but confidence will walk with you. Trump blinked. His jaw tightened. He had not expected poetry from an economist. A few seats down, Emmanuel Macron exhaled audibly. Merkel leaned forward, intrigued. Carney set the glass down gently. In trade, power is temporary. Confidence is not. The words were calm, not confrontational, but they hit with precision. Trump's aides looked at each other, unsure whether to intervene or take notes. Trump smirked again, trying to reassert control. "You sound very confident for someone whose country depends on ours." Carney replied evenly, "Confidence is built, not borrowed." The sentence landed like a verdict. The journalists outside could feel the energy shifting, even without hearing the words. Something was changing inside that closed room, a subtle but unmistakable reversal of control. Trump's hand tapped the table again, slower this time. He looked at Trudeau, then back to Carney. "You people really think you can tell us how to run trade?" Carney's expression did not change. "Not tell," he said. "Remind." Trump frowned. "Remind of what?" "That stability," Carney said, "is not strength. It is restraint." The tension broke, not with laughter, not with anger, but with silence. No one wanted to follow that line. After a long pause, Trump pushed back his chair slightly. "Fine," he muttered, half to himself. "Let us see how stable things are when we stop protecting everyone." He stood up, signaling the end of the meeting. Cameras flashed again. Macron leaned toward Merkel and said quietly, "He will never forget that exchange." Merkel replied, "Nor will the markets." When Trump left the room, his entourage followed quickly, whispering and gathering notes. The door closed behind him. Carney remained seated for a moment, alone with his thoughts. He adjusted his tie, picked up his folder, and walked out without a word. Reporters waiting in the corridor called out questions. "Governor Carney, any reaction to the U.S. tariffs? Do you think Trump will follow through?" He paused, turned slightly toward them, and said, "Markets correct themselves." Then he walked away. Those 3 words went viral overnight. Some said it was a warning, others, a challenge. But to those who understood power, it was something else entirely, a message wrapped in silence. Television anchors replayed the clip again and again. Analysts debated its meaning. Was Carney predicting a crisis? Or was he quietly assuring the world that the chaos would balance itself out? In the markets, calm returned within days. Stocks rebounded. Investors regained confidence. The world had heard the message and believed it. Because when Mark Carney spoke, the world listened. A year later in London, Carney addressed an audience of European policymakers. The topic was leadership in uncertain times. He smiled faintly as someone asked, "What advice would you give to political leaders today?" He paused, scanning the crowd, then said, "Sometimes the strongest statement is the one you do not make." Applause followed, but beneath the clapping, the meaning was unmistakable. He had lived that philosophy in front of the most unpredictable leader on earth. Trump's voice had echoed through rallies, interviews, and tweets. Carney's words had echoed through markets, banks, and boardrooms. 2 men, 2 worlds. One shouted, the other waited. One built momentum with noise. The other built influence with silence. In the months that followed, Carney's phrase, "Markets correct themselves," became a quiet mantra in economic circles. It represented a principle deeper than economics, that restraint, not reaction, defines endurance. While Trump's declarations made headlines, Carney's composure shaped policy. He became a symbol of calm amid political storms. Because the world had seen what happens when noise meets precision, and precision wins. Back at the G7 summit, few people remembered the speeches. They remembered that exchange, the image of Trump slamming the table and Carney sitting still. No raised voice, no dramatic gesture, just silence, and the unshakable authority of a man who understood that real power does not need to prove itself. He had not said a word for 47 minutes, but in less than 5, he had changed the tone of the entire summit. Diplomacy is not about who speaks the loudest. It is about who controls the silence. Trump's fire drew crowds. Carney's calm moved currencies. And in a world addicted to noise, it was the quiet that endured. Because in diplomacy, the calmest voice wins. So what do you think? Was this strategy or coincidence? Tell us in the comments. Thanks for watching the New World Times.